This happened a few months ago. I was 32 and working as a night nurse at the local hospital. I didn't have much experience with night shifts, but I thought it would be calm. The first few nights felt strange. The lights buzzed above me. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air. I figured I just needed time to adjust. By my third shift, I noticed odd things happening. Patient files on my desk were mixed up. I thought it was just a mistake by a day nurse, so I arranged them again. But I felt like I was reliving moments. I would push my cart down a long hallway and hear laughter from empty rooms. I stopped and looked inside, but no one was there. I began to wonder if it was all in my head. Things got weirder on my fourth night. A patient went into code blue. My heart raced as I dashed to the room. I've done this before, I thought. The doctors and nurses around the bed were familiar. I hadn't seen them in person, but their faces felt hauntingly close. I shook it off, thinking it was just exhaustion. A couple of nights later, I saw a nurse with dark curly hair. I felt like I'd spoken to her before. I asked how she was, and she smiled, looking at me oddly before turning away. I got a strange feeling. Had we talked about something? It felt like déjà vu. I pushed the thought aside, but it lingered. As the nights dragged on, shadows twisted in the hallways. I heard laughter again. This time, it seemed to float closer, echoing in my ears. I froze, sensing something was wrong. I looked around and saw nothing but darkness. A chill crept over me. My heart raced. I wanted to scream. Another night I spotted a figure at the end of the corridor. I thought I could walk up to them, but as I approached, nothing was there. My breath caught in my throat. It was so cold in that moment, and I began to wonder if I was losing my grip on reality. I felt trapped, like time was twisting around me. It was all too familiar. Then one night, just as I was leaving, I overheard a nurse say something strange. "It'll happen again soon." I turned to ask her what she meant, but she was gone, just like that. Down another hallway. I gripped the edge of my desk. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. What was happening? I felt like I was walking in circles. The same faces, the same laughter echoing through the halls. I thought about my migraines and if they were playing tricks on me. But this felt different. This felt like a warning. The last night I worked, I heard the laughter again. It wasn't far from me. I stood still, my heart racing. This familiar place began to feel like a trap. I turned to look down the empty hallway again. I hoped this time it wouldn't be déjà vu once more. Maybe this time I would find the truth. The moment I stepped into the hospital that night, a wave of unease washed over me. I gripped the strap of my bag tighter, trying to focus. The buzz of the overhead lights felt different, as if they were whispering secrets. I took a deep breath and went to the nurse's station. As I settled in, I couldn't shake my previous experiences. Those echoes of laughter haunted me. I checked the schedule and noticed the same dark-haired nurse appeared on the roster again. Her name was Michelle, and my heart sank. I recalled her odd smile from before, the way she'd eyed me like she recognized something about me. Deciding to confront it head-on, I walked through the corridors looking for her. The long hallway stretched before me, casting dark shadows in the corners. The laughter flickered at the edges of my mind, pulling me deeper into the darkness. I approached the break room and hesitated, listening intently. Nothing. Still, a gnawing curiosity pushed me. I pushed the door open, but no one was there. I felt a cold sweat at the back of my neck. I nearly turned to leave when I caught sight of a stack of patient files on the table. Something about the arrangement seemed almost chaotic. It felt wrong, out of place. "Why are they here?" I muttered to myself. I picked them up, intending to return them to their proper spot, but froze when I caught sight of the names. Each one was a mix of familiar and foreign. They were patients I had already encountered, documents that had slipped through my fingers like sand. I couldn't believe it. Suddenly I felt a chill brush past me and I spun around. There stood Michelle, her curly hair framing her face. "You're back," she said, her voice light, but her eyes held something else. "Didn't you get tired of it?" "Tired of what?" I asked, confusion blurring my thoughts. Of the nights, she replied, her lips curling in a smile. They're the same. They always will be. My pulse quickened as I searched her face. What do you mean? But before she could answer, the lights flickered violently. Darkness swallowed the room and I stumbled back. Panic surged in me as shadows shifted. Michelle, I shouted, but the darkness was thick, as if it had come alive. Then I heard it, a peal of laughter, chilling and familiar. I turned, fighting through the swirling shadows, and saw a figure darting away down the hallway. My instincts kicked in. I chased after it, wanting to know the truth of this madness. Just as I gained ground, the hallway twisted. Everything felt wrong, like I was stepping into another world. I found myself back at the nurse's station, breathless and disoriented. Behind the desk, a patient file lay open with one word highlighted. Remember. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Remember what? In that instant, the laughter returned louder than before. It echoed through me, a haunting, taunting sound. I was desperate to find answers. But then, an unexpected silence fell. I turned around, and that's when I saw it. A dark shadow stood watch at the end of the corridor, waiting for me to approach. My heart raced as I stared at the shadow, its form indistinct against the dim light. It didn't move. It simply watched. I took a hesitant step forward, each footfall seeming louder than the last. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. The shadow didn't reply. Instead, it shifted slightly, a ripple passing through it. I gulped. Something deep inside me screamed to run, but curiosity rooted me in place. "Who are you?" I pressed, hoping for an answer, any answer. "Do you remember?" A voice finally whispered. It was soft but clawed its way into my chest like thorns. My breath hitched. It sounded familiar, almost like mine echoing back from a distant memory. "Remember what?" I demanded, feeling foolish for talking to a figure that should have been just a trick of the light. But it felt real, too real. Suddenly, a flicker of recognition washed over me. Had I heard that voice before? The shadow shifted again, revealing a fleeting glimpse of a face obscured by darkness but somehow familiar. It was a face I had seen before, in passing. Or was it in a dream? I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to summon clearer memories. Then, laughter, that same eerie sound from before, rippled through the corridor again, echoing off the walls. My instincts screamed at me to flee. I broke my trance and turned to run back towards the nurse's station, but the darkness danced around me. Before I knew it, I was back in that cramped, fluorescent-lit room, the files still sprawled across the table. Confusion swirled in my mind. I glanced at the file with the highlighted word, Remember. My heart pounded. Why was it here? What was I meant to recall? I took a breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I needed clarity. Maybe if I went back to the break room I could piece it together. The flickering lights hummed overhead, and the air felt thick. Grabbing the nearest file, I flipped it open. The patient's name was crossed out, but I recognized the scrawl. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered to no one in particular. "Because you need to." The voice was clear this time, emanating from behind me. I spun around, my body tensing. This time it wasn't just a shadow. Michelle stood there, her smile wider than before, her eyes fiercely intense. "What do you mean I need to? You're part of it. You always have been. But you don't remember. You need to find out what happened." I shook my head, the words swirling like a storm in my mind. "I don't understand. What do you want from me?" She stepped closer, the shadows behind her seeming to stretch and swirl as if alive. "To remember. But in order to remember, you have to face the truth. What lies beneath?" Before I could respond, the lights went out again, plunging the room into darkness. Panic clawed at my throat as I stumbled backward, desperate to find my way. Then, a single word drifted in the blackness, hauntingly close. "Come." The darkness felt alive now, pressing in on all sides. I took a deep breath. I had a choice to make. I could run, or I could step into whatever lay ahead. I squared my shoulders, feeling the weight of fate pressing down on me. I took a cautious step forward, driven by something I couldn't define, a need for answers that outweighed my terror. The darkness felt suffocating, but I pressed on. The sensation of being watched returned, heavy on my shoulders, and I strained to catch any sound. The faint echo of Michelle's voice lingered in my mind, urging me to remember. I fumbled along the wall, my fingers brushing against the cool metal of the handrail. I found my footing and moved deeper into the darkness, heart thumping hard in my chest. With each step, a familiar unease crept over me. It felt like I'd been here before. As I walked, the faintest outline of a door appeared ahead, just barely visible. I gulped, uncertainty churning in my stomach. I reached for the handle, and after a moment of hesitation, twisted it. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside there was a single chair and a dusty old television. A feeling of dread washed over me as I stepped inside. I had never seen this room before, yet something about it felt intimately known. On the floor, a stack of old tape recorders lay scattered. I hesitated, my fingers hovering just above them. "Do it," the voice whispered again, sharp and urgent. "You need to." Against every instinct, I picked up one of the tape recorders and pressed the play button. The tape whirred to life, and static crackled before a voice emerged. It was distorted but somehow familiar. I strained to make out the words. "Didn't mean to. Can't remember. It was all a mistake." The words sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced around the room, scanning my surroundings. Shadows flickered along the walls, and I could feel the weight of unseen eyes boring into me. The memories were just out of reach, teasing me. Suddenly, the television flickered. Static gave way to a haunting image, a blurred figure standing in a hallway. I squinted, attempting to discern any details, and there it was again, that same face from the shadow, half hidden. Just when I thought I would recognize it, the image warped and faded back to static. Panic surged through me. I dropped the tape recorder and stumbled backward. "No, come back," I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. The laughter echoed again, louder this time, booming and mocking in the enclosed space. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. Trapped. I pressed against the door, feeling my heart race. This wasn't just about remembering. It felt like someone wanted me to unravel the fabric of these twisted moments. And the deeper I got, the more the shadows converged around me, dark and insistent. "Let me out!" I yelled, pounding on the door, but the laughter grew louder, and the shadows stretched closer. I could almost hear whispers calling my name, urging me to succumb. I had to find my way back to the light, to safety. Just then, the television flickered on again and I froze. A message scrolled slowly across the screen, each word flowing like water. It stopped abruptly, and I read the text with dread. "You're more connected than you think." My pulse quickened. What did that mean? Before I could comprehend it all, the room shuddered. Light flickered and the walls began to bend. I knew I had to escape before it consumed me completely. With a sudden surge of determination, I braced myself against the door, ready to fight my way out of this nightmare. The door rattled violently against my weight, but it held firm. The laughter morphed into a chorus of whispers, muffled yet urgent. It was as if the very walls were trying to suffocate me with their secrets. I knew I had to find another way out. Turning back to the room, my eyes darted around in search of a clearer exit. The shadows danced, teasing me. I caught a glimpse of something shimmering against the wall. It was the edge of a mirror that blended into the darkness. I crept toward it, driven by a growing curiosity that cut through my fear. As I approached, my reflection stared back at me, but it was distorted, the features warped and twisted. I reached out to touch it, and the instant my fingers made contact, a jolt shot through me. The mirror rippled like water, creating a swirling vortex. I could almost hear the echoes of past voices, my past, lost bits of memories clawing their way back into my mind. "Michelle," I gasped, recalling her name as if it were the key. "I need you." With newfound urgency, I pushed harder against the mirror. The glass quivered and suddenly, an image burst forth. It was a memory. Michelle and I were laughing, sitting in the break room at the hospital during late shifts. Everything seemed innocent, But as I looked closer, a shadow loomed behind us. It was the same figure I had seen before. Fear gripped me once more. I stumbled back from the mirror and turned to find the room shifting around me. The walls were shrinking, the dim light sinking further into darkness. I wasn't just recalling memories. I was being pulled into them. I needed to break this cycle, to understand why these flickers of déjà vu plagued me. Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I spotted another tape recorder. It had slid just beneath the edge of the chair. I knelt down and snatched it up. My heart raced as I pressed play, the familiar static crackling to life. After hours, they don't like to be disturbed. You have to be careful. The voice was low and shaky. Some things were never meant to be uncovered. A chill raced down my spine. What was I meant to uncover? And what had happened after hours at the hospital? I needed to find Michelle. She always seemed to know things, to notice when something was wrong. Before I could collect my thoughts, a sharp bang echoed behind me. The door shattered open, swinging wildly. A figure stood in the doorway, illuminated for a split second before the darkness swallowed it whole. My breath hitched, and adrenaline surged through my veins. "Stay back!" I shouted, but the words felt weak against the encroaching shadows. The figure stepped forward, breaking into the dim light. It was a face I recognized, distorted but familiar enough to pull at my heart. Michelle stared back at me, eyes wide with an emotion I couldn't place. "Run!" she screamed, and it all clicked into place. The memories, the hospital, the secrets hidden in those late shifts. But before I could ask her what she meant, the walls began to ripple more aggressively, threatening to pull us both under. I didn't have much time. I knew I needed to cling to the fleeting hope that she was still here, that I wasn't alone. "I'm with you!" I shouted, but the room was twisting, every second dragging me further into the heart of confusion. As I reached out to grab her hand, the shadows surged, ready to swallow both of us whole. What did I want to uncover? What did she know? I was about to find out. Just as our hands were about to touch, a blinding flash erupted from the mirror, throwing me backward. I landed hard on the cold floor, disoriented and gasping. I blinked a few times to clear my vision. The mirror had stopped rippling, but the air felt thick with tension. Michelle was gone. The shadows closed in, whispering. I scrambled to my feet, scanning the room frantically. The mirror seemed to shimmer with a faint light, and something in me urged me to approach it again. "Michelle," I called out, hoping my voice could pierce through the darkness. I could almost hear her laughter in response, but it twisted into something far more sinister. I felt a pull to the mirror, as if the reflections were calling me closer. There had to be more answers hidden there. As I stepped forward, a sudden crashing noise erupted from behind me. I whirled around, heart pounding, to find a cabinet had toppled over. My hands trembled as I approached it. With trepidation, I peered inside, half expecting something to jump out. And then I saw it. A dusty old journal. The leather cover cracked and worn. The spine felt fragile under my fingers, and I hesitated for only a moment before pulling it out. I flipped it open to the first page. The handwriting was messy, frantic. "Late shifts do strange things to people," it read. "Things that weren't supposed to be seen. If you find this, don't look. Just leave." The warning made my stomach churn. The fear of the unknown gripped me. Whatever had happened here was dangerous, and I was already too deep in. I flipped through more pages, frantic for any mention of Michelle or of those late-night secrets. There were sketches of the hospital layout, odd notes about patients and staff, but nothing concrete. Then, towards the back, I found a page filled with strange symbols and figures. My breath caught as I recognized one of the symbols. A twisted spiral, just like the mirror had formed. What did it mean? Did it link to the figures that haunted my memories? Suddenly the whispering grew louder, echoing in my mind. I could feel the shadows twitching, ready to rush at me. I slammed the journal shut and glanced around, desperately seeking a path. A shape shifted in the corner of the room, dark and formless. It moved quickly, almost like a phantom, and instinct kicked in. I had to get out. With the journal clutched to my chest, I bolted toward the door. Bolts of fear shot through me. I needed to escape before whatever had taken Michelle swallowed me whole. As my hand gripped the doorknob, it turned to ice. Then everything went dark. I wasn't just in the room anymore. I was suspended in that terrifying blackness again, the journals and everything else fading away. "What's happening?" I yelled into the void, panic rising in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I thought of the whispers, of Michelle. I needed to focus, to remember. Was this what the late shifts had done to her? To us? I couldn't let this be the end. I felt a flicker of light, and though I could barely see, I reached toward it, determined to pull myself back. I wouldn't let the shadows win. I wouldn't let Michelle down again. It was then I realized I wasn't just fighting for my own escape. I was fighting to uncover the truth. And I was running out of time. I opened my eyes slowly, the darkness around me melting away. I was back in the room, my heart racing. The mirror stood silent, its surface reflecting nothing but the flickering light from a nearby lamp. I stumbled back onto my feet, the journal still clutched tightly in my hand. "Michelle," I whispered, my voice almost swallowed by the silence. No answer came, only the icy grip of fear returned. I had to think. With a shaky breath, I approached the mirror again. This time, it didn't pull me in. It felt solid, cold. I ran my fingers along the frame looking for clues, searching for something, anything to help me understand what had just happened. That's when I noticed it. Scratches along the edge, not just wear from age. They looked deliberate. I leaned closer, examining the marks. They formed a pattern, a series of symbols, very similar to those in the journal. Could this mirror have been part of something larger? Some kind of ritual? My hands trembled as I traced them with my finger. The moment I touched one of the symbols, the air shifted. A low hum resonated around me, vibrating against my skin. I jerked back, fear gripping my gut. Then I heard it. A soft, hollow sound, like a voice calling from a distance. "Help me." "Michelle?" I shouted, my voice echoing back to me. The whisper faded, leaving a lingering echo in its wake. I ran back to the journal, flipping through the pages feverishly. I needed answers, but the symbols were all I could think about. Suddenly, a broom fell over with a loud crash from a storage closet in the corner. Startled, I turned toward the noise. Something dark darted inside the closet before I could see what it was. I hesitated, heart pounding. Should I investigate or run? I couldn't shake the feeling that if I didn't confront whatever it was, it would haunt me. With my heart racing and the journal in my grasp, I approached the closet. I opened the door slowly, bracing myself for whatever might be inside. The small space revealed nothing but shadows and discarded items. But when I looked down, I saw a small silver locket lying on the floor, partially hidden beneath a box. I bent down to pick it up, feeling a strange pull. As I opened it, a photograph slipped out. A picture of Michelle, clear as day, her smile infectious. But on the opposite side was a picture of another woman I didn't recognize, eyes wide with fear and a look of frantic desperation. "Who are you?" I whispered, scanning the dark corners of the closet. "What happened here?" I felt like I was on the edge of something big, but the uncertainty clawed at me. Then from the depths of the room I heard a low growl, like a beast stirring in the shadows. My pulse raced. I had to leave. But I also felt tethered to this mystery. So many questions buzzed in my mind, but the most important remained. Where was Michelle? I stood there, locket in hand, certain I was being watched as the dark presence seemed to loom closer. My instincts screamed at me to escape, but the truth was too close. I was running out of time, and I could sense that whatever was watching me wouldn't wait much longer. I took a steadying breath and turned away from the closet. The weight of the locket felt heavy in my palm. I needed answers, but time was slipping away. I glanced around the room, heart pounding in my chest. The air felt thick, almost electric. Suddenly the growl returned, feral and closer this time, sending a chill down my spine. Without thinking, I dashed toward the door, locket securely in my hand. I flung it open and sprinted down the hallway, my footsteps echoing in the silence. My mind raced with questions. Who was the woman in the locket? And why did I feel like I wasn't alone? I could feel a presence, a cold shadow lurking just out of sight. I rounded a corner, skidding to a halt at the foot of the stairway leading to the basement. Panic surged through me as I remembered the strange symbols in the journal, the connection to the mirror. It all seemed to tie back to the room hidden below. I hesitated, my breath coming in quick gasps. The basement door creaked open, revealing darkness that felt alive, waiting. If Michelle was down there, I had to go. But that growling sound echoed again, now mixed with faint whispers that tugged at my mind. Nonsense words that felt familiar, yet utterly foreign. I took another breath and steeled myself. "I'm coming, Michelle," I whispered, gripping the locket tightly. I stepped inside, the door swinging shut behind me with a soft thud that sent a tremor through my core. The dim light from above barely penetrated the abyss, but I could make out shelves stacked with old boxes and cobwebs thickening the corners. The air was colder here, and each step echoed with a sense of impending dread. I felt my pulse quicken as I made my way deeper into the basement, the whispers growing louder. "Help me! You're the only one!" I froze, the voice unmistakably Michelle's. It sent a bolt of hope and fear through me. But the darkness was closing in, wrapping itself around me like a suffocating cloak. I moved cautiously, every instinct screaming that I was not alone. That's when I saw it, a flicker of light at the end of the room. I approached slowly, driven by that haunting whisper. As I got closer, the light shifted as if it were breathing, its pulsing rhythm matching my own rapid heartbeat. But then, a noise behind me shattered the moment, something shifting in the dark. I turned, eyes wide, expecting to see a figure emerging from the shadows. Instead, I was met with emptiness, yet I knew I wasn't alone. That's when I heard a loud crash from behind me, sending me whirling back toward the flickering light. My heart dropped as I saw a shadow retreating into the darkness, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. I was losing control. Where was Michelle? The whispers intensified, now a cacophony of voices. I clutched the locket, my only connection to her, desperate to cut through the noise. I needed clarity, answers, anything to lead me to her. Before I could gather my thoughts, the power flickered, plunging everything into darkness. In that pitch blackness, fear surged through me like ice water. I could feel it then, something pressing against me, a chill running down my spine. Somebody was in the room with me, and this time running wouldn't save me. Just then the soft glow came back, illuminating a figure I recognized all too well. My heart leapt into my throat, but it wasn't Michelle. It was the woman from the locket, her eyes wide in terror, as if she was trapped in another time and place. "Get out!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the silence as the light flickered again, casting long shadows. And in that moment, I knew. Whatever was in the basement wanted me to stay. I stumbled back, my heart racing as I processed her words. "What do you mean, get out?" I replied, trying to keep my voice steady even as panic roared within me. The light around her flickered again, and I could see it more clearly now, her features twisted in fear, lips trembling. "Time is not what it seems here," she shouted, eyes widening as shadows danced across her face. "What you've touched, what you've awakened, it doesn't want to let you go." I could feel the air change, a sudden pressure thickening around me. The basement walls felt like they were closing in, my breath quickening with each moment. "Where's Michelle?" I demanded, desperation creeping into my voice. "Is she down here?" The woman pointed toward the darkness behind her, the light flickering again, greedily pulling me deeper into the grip of the basement. "You're moving in circles. You can't save her if you stay." With that, she seemed to fade slightly, her image blurring before me. "No!" I shouted instinctively, lunging forward, desperate to catch the shimmer of her figure. But just like that, she vanished, and the whispers resumed, more insistent now, a haunting echo around the confined space. I turned, heart racing, trying to shake off the feeling of being stuck in a trap. The shadows emitted a low growl, deep and resonant, making me want to flee. I needed to find Michelle, and fast. My instinct screamed that time was ticking away. As I took a step back toward the center of the basement, something caught my eye. Underneath one of the shelves, I noticed a glint of metal. I edged closer, heart pounding as curiosity pushed me forward. It was an old key, rusted yet ornate, its design reminiscent of something I couldn't quite place. I reached for it, trembling, and as my fingers closed around the cool metal, the shadows shifted again, sensing the new energy in the room. Just then, a loud crash sounded behind me, louder than before, and I spun around to face the darkness. "Get out!" I yelled now, my courage rising against the threat, but the growl morphed into a roar, shaking the very foundation beneath me. It was angry, alive. The basement felt like it was breathing, even as I held the key in my palm. That's when I remembered the symbols in the journal I'd studied earlier, the ones connected to the mirror and its power. My mind raced. Hadn't it mentioned a way to lock away whatever was causing this? With a sudden burst of clarity, I turned back to the door leading deeper into the shadows. "I can't stay here," I shouted, gripping the locket and the key tightly. The weight of the decision crashed over me, resolute and terrifying. An icy wind swept through the basement, knocking over boxes that scattered on the floor. I knew I had to face whatever was lurking in the darkness. The urgency of rescue fired through my veins. As I sprinted toward the shadows, the whispers crescendoed into a clamor of voices calling for my attention. "Help! You must!" I felt a force slam into me, sending me reeling back. To my horror, I realized it was the darkness itself, surging forward like a living entity, intent on dragging me down. But the key, still clutched in my hand, thrummed against my skin, almost pulsing in sync with my heartbeat. "Let me go!" I cried, feeling the pressure against my chest, struggling to keep my footing. Before I could regain my balance, the basement erupted in bright light, the kind that seared my vision and drowned out the whispers. In that blinding flash, the last piece clicked into place. There wasn't just a way out. There was a way to break the cycle. All I needed was courage and a little light, but as the brightness dimmed, I knew I had to act fast before everything slipped away again. And right then, deeper within the shadows, I heard Michelle's voice call out one last time. "Help me!" The resolution gripped me tightly. I had to face the darkness. I plunged forward into the swirling shadows, the key and locket clutched tightly in my hand. The air thickened around me, electric and suffocating. Every instinct told me to retreat, but I pressed on, propelled by the urgency to find Michelle. "I'm coming," I shouted, the sound of my own voice echoing ominously in the engulfing darkness. The growling roared just behind me, hungry and relentless. I sprinted forward, forcing myself to move through the curling shadows that seemed to stretch and claw at my sides. With each step, I screamed Michelle's name, pleading for a response, but the only reply was a cacophony of whispers swirling through the air, taunting and sinister, drowning out my cries. I focused on the key. The rough metal felt alive in my grip, pulsating with the urgency of the moment. Remembering the journal's mention of locking away the darkness, I turned my thoughts inward. A surge of confidence coursed through me. If I could confront the shadows, if I could unlock whatever was binding us here, I could save her. Ahead, I spotted an outline of another door, barely visible through the growing tempest. Heart racing, I rushed toward it, praying it would lead me to Michelle. I pushed against the door, but it resisted, just like everything else in this accursed place. Panic clawed at my throat, but I fumbled for the key, thrusting it towards the lock. Just as the growl crescendoed behind me, I twisted the key into place and turned it hard. The door creaked open, and a blinding light poured out, surrounding me with warmth and safety. I stumbled through just as the shadows erupted behind me, a massive shape forming from their intertwined essence, surging to reclaim what they had lost. I barely had time to catch my breath before the door slammed shut behind me, sealing in whatever had been lurking in the darkness. I turned in the blinding light and found myself in a small, sterile room. It felt painfully familiar. The hospital on the night shifts. The walls were bare, fluorescent lights flickering above. A single bed stood in the corner, and the air buzzed with that unmistakable antiseptic smell. My pulse raced as I scanned the surroundings, keenly aware of the sudden silence. "Michelle?" I called, urgency tinged with hope. But the room remained eerily quiet. My heart sank, the weight of dread pressing down on me. She had to be here. I walked slowly, exploring the room, apprehension turning my stomach. That's when I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a figure huddled against the far wall. My breath caught as I moved closer. It was Michelle, her dark curls framing her face, but she sat motionless, staring at the ground. "Michelle!" I shouted again, rushing to her side. "It's me!" Her head lifted slowly and she blinked, confusion clouding her eyes. You came back?" Her voice was a whisper, as if she could barely believe I was there. "I'm here." I knelt beside her, relief crashing over me like a wave. "I thought I lost you. We have to get out of here." Yet no sooner had my words left my lips than her gaze flickered behind me. I turned to see the door grow dark, shadows pooling around the edges. The familiar growl reverberated in the air, and something stirred in that darkness. Panic surged. "We can't stay here. We need to move." She hesitated, eyes lost in thought before shaking her head slowly. "We can't escape. The shadows will always be there. They're connected to this place." "Then we'll face them together," I declared, feeling a surge of determination as I clutched the locket and key tightly. "We can unravel this, whatever it is." Michelle's expression shifted, fear mingling with something that felt like resignation. "Sometimes, it's better not to know," she said softly. I looked at her, torn between understanding her fear and the need for answers. But what if knowing could free us? We can break this cycle. We can change how this ends. As if responding to our resolution, the door shuddered violently. Shadows clawed at its edges, eager to reclaim us. "Help me," echoed a voice, the words a desperate plea that pierced through the chaos. I instinctively reached for the key, holding it tight. "No," Michelle said in a panic. "Leave it be. You don't know what you're unlocking." But I felt compelled. The truth needed to be set loose no matter how frightening. "We have to try." The door swung open abruptly, light pouring into the room. Bolstered by my conviction, I vaulted through the threshold, with Michelle hesitantly following. "Together," I said, locking eyes with her. We'd face whatever was waiting for us side by side. As we charged ahead, the shadows surged, their growling resonating through the hallways. I didn't know what awaited us at the end, darkness or freedom, but deep down, I felt a flicker of hope. We would confront it together, whatever it turned out to be. But the whispers and laughter intertwined, swirling around us as I grasped Michelle's hand. I chose to fight through the uncertainty, the evasive truths we might never uncover. As we plunged into the light, I could feel the shadows clawing at our footsteps, desperate to pull us back. Yet we ran, eager to meet our fate with defiance. In that final moment of clarity, I knew some shadows would always remain, flitting in the corners of our minds. But together, we would confront them, refusing to let them drag us into the dark. As the echoes of the hospital began to fade and distort, I took solace in one undeniable truth. We were still here, together, navigating the unknown. The past loomed large and unanswered, but as we cleared the threshold together, there was a flicker of hope that perhaps that was enough.